What's up, everyone? Welcome to S-TEC Live. My name is Tony, and I am the social media coordinator here at the Peter E. Schmidt Company. If you don't know who we are a manufacturer representative for the New York metro area. We represent leading audio-visual brands, including Shure, QSC, Furman, SKB, just to name a few. But today we are going to be focusing on RME, part of the Synthax brands, and their lineup of audio interfaces and their Totalmix software. In today's webinar, we are going to be talking about all of that, but you can also ask questions. So there's a Q&A in the Zoom chat, so you can submit questions through the Q&A or post a question in the chat. We have people monitoring and will be able to answer your questions. There will also be links posted to products as we talk about them, and you can click on those links to see them. If you are joining us on YouTube and you have a question, you can join us on the Zoom call using the link in the description. We will be having Derek Badala joining us from Synthax, and our very own Zack Spader is our host for the day. So I'm going to pass it on to them, and take it away, gentlemen.
Thank you, Tony. Hey, Derek, how you doing today?
Good. Doing well. How you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm sitting in a lovely snowstorm right now, which I know is not affecting you in any way in nice, warm Florida. I don't know if anyone in the chat is in New York as well, but we got maybe a few inches coming with more to come. So loving it over here. But
I think it's 75 degrees here.
Must be nice. Must be nice.
Anyway, sorry, 81.
Oh, even better. 81. Thank you. Just rubbing it in. Anyway, the reason for today's call and webinar is we're going to just go through interfaces, what's been going on with RME during 2020, 21, the big products that we've been seeing, any trends, and most asked questions. So the first thing that we've been seeing, and the first question that I wanted to ask is, what are the specific products that we've been seeing a rise in popularity throughout the last year?
Well, really anything to do with home use. And I don't even say recording, because there's people who don't even work in audio that need audio interfaces for presentations. But specifically the Babyface Pro FS, which is our portable interface, the Fireface series, which are our rack mount audio interfaces. Those for certain have received a ton of increase in sales and questions and inquiry and questions on how to use and on. And then expandability questions are coming up, how to add inputs and outputs and do certain types of things with these interfaces, like using OBS for live streaming or using the audio interface with PowerPoint and with Zoom. I mean, Zoom and Zoom-like applications, how to record a remote guest that I can no longer bring to my home, whether I'm doing voice artists and voice actors and all kinds of different things.
And the main use for all of that has been work from home and stuff like that. So figuring out solutions for that specifically.
Yeah, and people writing, composing music more if you're in a band or a live musician. And, you know, on the weekends, normally you're playing gigs and doing other things. But now with people not able to do that nearly as often, they're writing and, you know, doing stuff at home, getting more creative with the tools.
So specifically the Babyface Pro FS is what we've been seeing on our end, selling a crap ton of.
Yep.
What solutions have we been using for that? What have people been using it for besides just the work from home option?
Well, like some of the things I said, you know, doing live streams, having an audio input to your Zoom meetings, having an audio interface to do music teaching from home, having an audio interface for podcasting, and improving that process. People have more time to mess around with their computer and their DAWs, and, you know, a USB headset and mic doesn't really cut it. So getting an audio interface and learning more about what something like a Babyface brings to your system in terms of managing not just your inputs and outputs, but your desktop audio. Desktop audio is anything from iTunes, Windows Media Player, PowerPoint, videos, YouTube. And many people are doing things online where they want those sources that I just mentioned, which are all software, to be part of it. And most audio interfaces do not manage what I call desktop audio very well. RME does because of something called Totalmix.
Right. Now, the biggest thing is the Babyface compared to the Babyface Pro FS.
Yep.
A lot of people don't understand the differences. I was hoping that you could jump into that a bit and just what are the
Yeah,
biggest
very
highlights?
easily, actually. And it's a great question. I get it a lot. So I can't answer that question without first talking about something called Steady Clock FS. In digital audio, clock frequency is something that every digital audio device has, from a mixer to anything with an A to D converter. And clock frequency is essential for that converter to perform well. And what RME does differently than everybody else is they developed a technology years ago called Steady Clock. And Steady Clock is paramount to resolving jitter and doing everything that takes place in digital audio. For the scope of this conversation, let me just tell you, when they went from Steady Clock to Steady Clock FS, they brought that clock frequency down into the femtosecond range. What does that mean to the average vocalist, guitarist, person at home? Well, it improves your converters. It makes your mic pre sound incredible, even if you have a lousy mic. We've interviewed artist after artist after artist and asked this question: what's the first thing you notice when you use an RME interface? And you'd think with all the sexy bells and whistles that we all like to talk about, you want to know what the number one answer was? Sound quality. And I got answers like, it's not a subtle thing. It was immediately noticeable. It made my mic, which wasn't very expensive, sound better. All those kinds of things. Even doing Zoom, I get the question all the time. Not what mic am I using, but why is it you sound so much better than a lot of other meetings I get on? And that's because of the Babyface and the mic pre. So sound quality doesn't get enough airplay in our industry because we're so hung up on features and benefits. But so that's a big thing. Steady Clock FS is a huge upgrade. So we've enhanced the mic pre's, we've enhanced the inputs and outputs. Another product that's been hot during this pandemic is the ADI2 series of headphone DACs and preamps. And we took some of the circuits from that product and put it in the headphone circuit of the Babyface Pro FS. We added a better sensitivity to the speaker. So many people have very sensitive studio monitors now, and you need a +4, +19 dBu switch. So we've added that. We've added a K slot to the side of the unit. And we've added a USB-C compatible cable. So for Mac users who are used to having to go out and spend $50 to $100 in adapters and cables, the Babyface Pro includes a USB 2 and a USB-C cable. So that's really nice. And we've improved the drivers. The latency is even better. And we partnered with the Plugin Alliance and Scuffum Amp. So we include S-Gear, which is a guitar amp simulation plugin and standalone application. So for guitar players out there, that's $140 of free software right there. And we include BrainWorks OptoX compressor and MasterDesk tools from BrainWorks. So all of that comes with the Babyface. So if you go to the RMEUSA.com website, there is a register for your plugins link. Your Babyface Pro has a little sticker on it, so don't rip off that cellophane packaging too quickly, because you can go to that website and register your Babyface, and we send you all the download instructions for those plugins, and you own them outright. Awesome. So that's a litany of differences that I think make it very clear that the Babyface Pro FS version is probably the best sounding and reference class portable interface you can get, because it works with Mac, Windows, and iOS.
Absolutely. And this may be going slightly off topic, but one of the biggest things that I noticed with the Babyface is when that Big Sur updates for the operating system on Macs, my Babyface worked the same day I downloaded it, which I'm not used to as an audio engineer. Whenever you have to download anything, any type of operating system, your whole recording setup crashes because nothing has the drivers already set up. How the heck does RME actually make it work the first day?
We write our own drivers. It's a lesser known fact at the end user level that RME has in-house engineers for the hardware and the software for Mac and Windows. So everything we do is in conjunction with what Microsoft is doing and what Apple is doing. And when we say a statement like we write our own drivers, it kind of just goes over people's heads quickly. But what that means is Apple, when they went up from High Sierra to Catalina, it was a catastrophic warning across our industry. Don't upgrade. DAWs, don't upgrade. I mean, if you're a Pro Tools user, you're used to that. You're used to like sticking with your OS.
Still on Maverick.
A lot of people, not everybody uses Pro Tools, and some people's computers are set automatically to update, and you don't even know. You get up the next day, and all of a sudden your OS is different, and your audio driver doesn't work, and then you go to your manufacturer's website, and it says oh, this isn't compatible yet, do not upgrade, and you're kind of in a pickle there. So we write our own drivers. So historically, and two things happened over the last 2 years that were pretty significant. High Sierra went to Catalina, and Catalina actually that went to another I forget the name of it, but Mojave, and then to Catalina, and then to Big Sur. And all of those, especially Catalina and Big Sur, had really paramount issues with many manufacturers, but not RME users. So I always tell customers, especially for Mac users, RME is going to give you a huge advantage over everybody else because you're not going to be caught, without a driver because of that purpose. And we support products all the way back to 1996. So if you bought a sound card from RME back in 2000, we still have driver support for it. So that's what you get with RME that you generally don't get with everybody else.
Yeah, that's huge. I mean, I have a very old 2012 MacBook that is still running Maverick because I'm a Pro Tools user. I'm using Pro Tools 9. So
yeah, and you're afraid to update, and I don't blame you.
Yeah, if I update, I lose everything. So
yep, I'm right there with you.
One other thing, and then I kind of wanted to jump back to products, but you mentioned Totalmix earlier as well. And there is a lot of cool features within Totalmix that people aren't really familiar with. They don't know how well it can be used and incorporated into their system. Could you go into a bit of what it is and what it can do?
Sure. And I'm going to share my screen to do that. You can see my screen now, I believe. And let me know if that you can see my screen, just so I know. Okay. So Totalmix is built into the driver. And it is software that runs on the hardware. So it runs on your Babyface, runs on your Fireface, etc. And it manages all the incoming and outgoing signals that come in and out of your audio interface. So you can see my microphone right here. I have another mic input. This is my Babyface. I have instrument inputs, etc. So if I plug in a guitar into input 3, I'm going to see meters moving just like I do here. And I have my gain and phantom power, etc. Then I have the outputs. So in the case of the Babyface, I have ADAT outputs and I have headphone outputs, and I can create separate mixes of different inputs and outputs. And then I have a software playback area. So iTunes and Pro Tools and Logic and S-Gear can all come in this middle row, and I can feed that to my headphones while not feeding it somewhere else. And when we get into like working from home, Zooming, OBS, live streams on Facebook, etc., I can use these other outputs to create mixes and make these outputs look like software inputs to Zoom and to Skype and to other things, just to keep it simple, and do a lot of complex routing and mixing that is very difficult to do with a lot of other interfaces. Also, Totalmix gives me the ability to have a headphone system where I have talkback and dim and monitor control, and I have the ability to do speaker A and speaker B things. So all of these things are built into Totalmix, where I don't have to go out and buy other hardware to manage my A speaker from my B speaker or a talkback system. So there's also effects, EQ, compression built in as well. I have reverb and delay and EQ.
Yeah, I was going to say, you were doing it earlier.
I mean, I could go on for Totalmix is a thing unto itself. And the truth is, on the Babyface, it's there. On the iPad, it's there. With a Fireface unit, I even had compression on every input and output. So, and I can record those things to my DAW or not record them. So we have classes and videos on Totalmix that go into great detail. But the truth of the matter is, it's a cornerstone technology that no other manufacturer provides with their interface. And everybody that's used it tells me that they can't imagine working without it.
This is one of the biggest things too. Once I started using it, I realized the learning curve was very easy. Like just to hop in and be able to understand specifically what you're working with. I mean, anyone who's used Pro Tools or any type of DAW can jump in and understand what each channel does.
The biggest thing with Totalmix is you click on an output and bring up the faders you want to feed to that output. And you click on another output and all the faders snap into whatever mix for that output. So you can create independent mixes for every output, including your headphones. So you can pretty much connect everything in your home studio to your interface and leave it connected. And Totalmix becomes a virtual patch bay with faders and meters. So it's pretty powerful. There's also a remote for it. So if I want to go over to my drum set, where I'm not going to be near my laptop or my desktop computer, I can use an iPad to control the mix for my headphones just for the drummer. So it's like having a personal monitor system built into it as well. So
yeah, that's huge too. And a lot of people don't know that you can use the Babyface and everything like that with an iPad.
yeah.
That's huge.
Yeah. There's an app on the App Store you can download. It's called Totalmix for iPad, and it allows you to connect the Babyface directly to the iPad. The newer iPads can provide power now. The older iPads, you had to plug in an external power supply, but the Babyface Pro is by nature bus powered, and the iPad Pros, I believe, provide that. So now it's even cooler than before.
Like, yeah,
So,
it's like,
and here's the other thing about the Babyface, since I know we're spending a lot of time on the Babyface. It's a standalone mixer. So people don't realize, and I did a video on the RME USA or RME USA YouTube channel. It's like 2 minutes long about how to use the Babyface just as a mixer. So when you buy an audio interface, normally it's tethered to a computer and that's all it does. With a Babyface, it's like a portable mixer and an audio interface. So it's like two products for the price of one. So immediately when you invest that money, it's a no-brainer because you can't say that about any other product that you get that's like a Babyface.
True. Yeah.
So pretty cool stuff.
So then the next question, and this is one of the most asked questions, is all of our interfaces use USB. A lot of the competitors use Thunderbolt. What is the difference, or why do we use USB over Thunderbolt?
Okay, so there's a myth in our industry about what you're referring to as buses, right? The bus technology, USB 2, USB 3, Thunderbolt, Firewire, USB-C. Those are all bus technologies.
Right.
Those are bandwidth. Bandwidth is how wide is your highway and how many cars can I go down the highway at one time. That relates in audio to channels. So USB 2, because we write our own drivers, we don't rely on Apple or Windows in those technologies where all of our competitors do. So because we write our own drivers, we get some of the fastest round trip latency specs of anybody else. In fact, there's a third party published website that I think RME had 5 out of 10 of the top 10 performance devices. So in other words, of the top 10 latency performance interfaces, RME had 5 in the top 10. And I think it had 15 in the top 20. So, and that's because of this driver. So the driver is a function of speed and how quick it is, and bandwidth is a function of how many channels I can do at one time. So to your question about Thunderbolt versus USB, we don't put a Thunderbolt IO on a Babyface because the Babyface is 12 in, 12 out at any given time. We only do Thunderbolt or USB 3 when we're doing greater than 70 channels simultaneously. And I would argue most of us never do 70 plus channels at one time, unless you're doing a playback rig for a tour or something, or doing some massive immersive audio thing, where then you might use a Fireface UFX Plus or
Right.
Madiface XT or an HDSPE Madi card, which can do 192 channels. Then we got to do USB 3, which is more common than Thunderbolt, because Thunderbolt is mainly a Mac thing, and USB 3 you can get on both. And USB 3 and USB-C are kind of the same in terms of their bandwidth. So just adapting USB to USB-C works just fine with RME. I can't speak for other manufacturers. So to summarize, basically USB 2 for anything up to 70 channels, which I would argue is just about what everybody uses at home. In the RME line, that's the 802, the Fireface 802, UFX2, UCX, UC, Babyface Pro, Madiface USB even only does 64 in and out on USB 2. So we only add USB 3 and Thunderbolt when we do greater than 70 channels. And our USB 2 specs outperform several other manufacturers' Thunderbolt specs. So it's really what you want to pay for. Why pay for something that's not adding any value, which is sort of our philosophy.
Do you think that's where this misconception comes in, where people think that RME is specifically for PCs and not Macs? Like, you have the competitors who have Thunderbolt. We clearly stated with the drivers, the operating system, that RME can go both ways no matter what. But I think in the public side, they're saying that RME is mainly for PCs. Do you think that cable has anything to do with it?
I think it probably does. I don't have any evidence that says that. I do have some interesting statistics though, because one of my resellers once pointed out that they thought that 90% of their RME sales were Windows users, because with Windows users, RME is considered the best choice. We were paramount with Windows from the very beginning, and the ASIO driver, and partnering with Steinberg, who developed Cubase, and there's a whole history there that's all very good. But with the Mac, USB Mac is notorious for changing what they have for I/O. So it's been trickier. And there was FireWire at one point, and the Fireface units, just by the nature of their name, Fireface, oftentimes get misconstrued as all having FireWire. What I find to be interesting is that the UCX and the 802, which are two models in the Fireface line, purposely retain the FireWire port for reasons like you discussed a few minutes ago, that you have an older Mac and you're running an older OS, and that Mac very well may be something from 2010, 2012 that has FireWire. Yep. So the RME products are backwards compatible and forwards compatible. That's now, huge. The average salesperson who works at a retail store isn't going to have all that insight, and that's okay. But the reality is, when you investigate RME a little more carefully, this is what you come to uncover, is that, okay, this company has got me covered going backwards and forwards. And when I start to when I peel back the layer of the onion about USB 2 and USB 3 and USB-C, I'm covered either way. So that's the message that we try to get out there. So to your question about the Mac, so yeah, some people do that it's mainly PC, but the reality is our drivers on Mac are just as fast, if not faster, than our competitors. And Thunderbolt is great if you want to do 70 plus channels, but to seek out an interface solely on the basis of it's got to have Thunderbolt is really a fruitless effort. It gains you nothing in terms of latency, only channels.
We spent a lot of time talking about the Babyface. We did mention the ADI 2 and DAC and the ADI Pro and stuff like that. How has that been used during 2020 and 21, working from home and just stuff like that?
Well, that's a loaded question, because there's so many markets that get served with that piece. And I'm not an expert in several of those markets, but the ADI 2 product line, especially back in 2017, the first version of it, the ADI 2 Pro, that's what it was called. It was really developed because we wanted a product to measure our other products. And one of our founding engineers could not find anything on the market that he could measure the audio interfaces with. So, and he wanted specific headphone features to monitor, listen critically to the gear. So he needed sample rates that were higher than 192. He needed converters that were second to nothing. So long story short, he decided, you know what, I just got to build it. So the ADI 2 Pro was built, and it had an array of monitoring features that the headphone audiophile market really likes. It has converters that were incredible. And that's where Steady Clock FS was developed. When the market saw this piece and said, well, we don't need to record with it, we just want to play back high-end music files. That was more the high-end, DAC market. So then we added features like a made it black, which was, to me, was kind of silly, but that's what people wanted. We wanted a remote. And in that process, he developed Steady Clock FS. So, because when you have bad clock, you get sidebands in your frequencies. And I won't get into the nerdiness of that, but long story short, the product has evolved over the last 5 years, and where the current two products on the market are the ADI 2 DAC FS and the ADI 2 Pro FS. And the Pro has just got recording inputs as well as outputs. And to your question, people use it for mastering, mixing, listening, test and measurement. A lot of people don't realize that much of RME's business is in the test and measurement market. So companies like Apple, Google, Microsoft, even other audio interface manufacturers use our gear to measure their gear, because RME's whole philosophy is transparency. We don't want to color the sound. We want to capture the sound as it truly is. So your question is hard to quantify, because those products go into so many markets. But the two biggest ones are mastering, mixing, critical listening, and audiophile headphone DAC market.
All right. Perfect. I mean, it makes sense how it's been rising in sales throughout the past year or so, because everyone's working from home. They either are engineering in their workspace or something like that, or they have their vinyl and they want to play out some.
Yeah, and they want to take their playback mixing and mastering to another level and
Yeah.
get clarity that they weren't hearing, excuse me, before. And the other thing I'll say about those pieces, because it's worth mentioning, is on the headphone side, you know, anybody that's been doing this for any length of time, we all have hearing loss to some degree, and the hearing loss is rarely equal on both ears. So those products have the ability to set parametric EQ that's different in the left and right ear. So if I have a 10 dB per octave hearing loss above 2K in my left ear, I can adjust that. But if it's different in my right ear, and that when you're doing critical listening, that is key. There's even contour loudness because, you know, as you know, the human ear, we're going to get in weeds for a second. The human ear hears bass frequencies differently at different levels. And so there's actually precision controls in there to adjust that. So if you're trying to listen to a lower volume, you need to offset that phenomenon. So there's settings in there for that. There's also a crossfeed feature that, because when we listen to music on 2 stereo monitors, you know, you have natural crossfeed in air. Well, when you put isolation headphones on, that gets lost, and that's part of what you lose when you're trying to mix on headphones. But like, hey, if you live in New York, it's a little hard to crank up the studio monitor. So
Absolutely.
mixing on headphones, having crossfeed is another thing that makes headphone mixing possible and more realistic. So, and there's a litany of other things that I can't get into in this short time we have, but those are just some of the things that come to light that many people don't know.
Absolutely. And that's huge. We could probably do a whole presentation on just that one specific product.
Yeah, and there's
go into
people
the
that know
box
way
later.
more about that product than I do.
I will. Then I'm going to jump to the next one, and this is a fun one. There was a recent event that happened where a warehouse caught on fire, and
I wonder what you're referring to.
yeah, I'm sure we all know about it. But RME is staying strong throughout that. We still have stock, and it looks like we're going to have stock moving forward for the next few months as well. How did you guys manage that when everyone else is struggling?
Several factors. The philosophy of our managing director, a lot of people. So let me address the first question. Who is Synthax? Synthax is RME's distributor. They're kind of, you know, all part of the same company. And in America, we're based in Fort Lauderdale, and we cover North and South America, which is a pretty big territory. And in order to do that, we have to have stock. And RME gear is found in several major places. I mentioned Microsoft, Google, in live sound, recording. And our clients are very big clients, and we have non-disclosures with many of them. So we can't advertise how those companies use our gear. But as such, we got to have stock. We have to be able to support. We have to have parts. So we keep a very large inventory in the States, number one. So we had an inventory to work with when everybody else was sort of functioning on a just-in-time basis. Number two, our engineers are amazing at what they do. So they found suitable replacements if we ever need to. But we had an ample amount of AKM chips. That's the manufacturer that had the fire. And we've secured a lot of inventory to sustain us. And of course, we're hearing conflicting rumors about when they'll produce or if they'll produce. And we have plan B and plan C and all those contingencies. So we personally do not foresee an issue with inventory on our key products.
Man, that's huge. That's being proactive instead of reactive, because a lot of the other manufacturers in our industry are just being reactive right now, trying to figure things out. Prices are increases.
I
So
mean,
it's
look,
nice
there's
to
always
know.
things out of our control, and never say never. I mean, but we believe we're in a good position. That could change if something, you know, if the run rate on RME became completely like 100% of the market, then obviously we're going to burn through inventory faster than we forecasted. But overall, we feel like we're in a pretty good shape.
Awesome. Well, going through the list, that's essentially everything that I got. We went over the plugins. We went over inventory, the Babyface Pro FS, the ADI2 DAC, Totalmix. I kind of want to open it up to the chat and see if anyone has any questions for us or would like to see if we got anything there. So I'm checking here. Let's see.
Seems like you guys did an amazing job because there's no questions.
I just want to throw a shout out to Alana. I can see that she's in here. Alana from HH Greg. Where's my compliment on my sweater, Alana? Where's that? It's a fire sweater. Thank you.
Hey, I wore my RME shirt today. I haven't worn this in a year.
It's actually a
This
fire
was my
sweater,
travel
which is
with
even
Frank shirt.
Well, I was gonna say, I mean, I'm not sure if you're wearing pants, but that's one of the obviously advantages. To
Yes,
working
I'm
from
wearing
home.
pants. But isn't it funny when you work from home, you have to be cognizant of that. You got to like turn off your camera in case you're wearing like boxer shorts or something.
You just don't stand up. You scoot it to the side.
I think we're crossing some HR line now.
Yeah, let's stay on topic.
I think I need an RME sweater. Okay, well, I don't think we have one, but we should make one. We're trying to make some cool swag. Now there's no events, there's no trade shows. It's like we don't have the opportunity to hand this stuff out anymore. Probably the first trade show there's going to be RME hand sanitizer and masks, which it's kind of the trend right now.
What is the next event that you guys think you'll be jumping on board with?
We are slated to do so AES, which normally takes place in New York, has got pushed back. So from November of last year to the fall of this year. So we're going to be in unless something changes, of course, we'll be in Las Vegas. I think it's in October, and it's the combination NAB AES show that normally takes place at the Javits Center.
Right.
So that's the first show we're slated to do. We were supposed to do InfoComm in June in Orlando, but that recently got moved. And coincidentally, it's the week after, and we just can't do two trade shows back to back like that. So we won't be participating in InfoComm this year.
Okay. That makes sense.
Actually, I do have a question. The most recent price increase is pretty big. Is that a question or a statement? Any specific reason why, if goods are in? Oh, yeah. I don't want to get into politics, but the dollar is much weaker now than it was. So because our products are manufactured in Germany, we buy our inventory in euro. So our dollar is just not worth what it was. It had a 20% drop in value. So our cost went up 20%, which is the simple economic reason why the price increase.
I was going to say, we've been seeing price increase across numerous lines across the entire industry as of right now.
Yeah.
Not just related to the.
And it's funny. We had, I think, our best month ever last month. We hit a new high, and
Okay.
even with the price increase, and this month is already completely shattered last February.
Dang, that's impressive.
So
Everyone's from home.
I don't know if it's going to continue. I mean, we'll see, but we're obviously optimistic. You said it. I mean, just about every audio interface manufacturer had a price increase, so it's all boats went up with the tide. We were no different. We tried to, in many cases, we didn't raise the price, but we had to raise the price on a lot of products, and they happen to be products that are popular because the mere fact that they are popular, they're on the world stage. So we have to be competitive with the European pricing and Japan, et cetera. And all of those markets are, dependent on currency values. So that's a challenge. So, and we've tried very hard to have worldwide fairness in pricing across countries. And we don't set the prices in Europe or in UK so obviously where we had to adjust, those were the ones like the Babyface and the 80, the UFX Plus and the 2, but it was a handful of RME products.
Derek, I actually think RME was probably one of the lowest percentage of increases across all brands, just in case anyone was looking at that.
Yeah, I agree.
Right.
Pointing that out.
We had a question. Can you talk about anything maybe behind the curtain a little bit? Some new stuff on the horizon?
Yeah, we have quite a bit of stuff. There's some things I can talk about for sure. I mean, everything I'm about to mention is definitely coming. RME has some new stuff in the audio networking realm, but I'm not at liberty to share exactly what those are yet because I don't really have a time frame. The AKM fire did slow the release of that product down because we had to circle back on existing product and make sure we had our bases covered. So we decided to delay some of the new RME stuff. But the Pharaohfish, which is a very popular line that we represent, makes converters, mic pre's. Well, they didn't make mic pre's, now they do. I just said it. So the A32 Dante will have a mic pre version, which we expect to do very well, called an M16. And so that's new. And then another brand that we represent is Apsis. Apsis makes digital converters. So if I want to go from Dante to Maddie or AES50 to Dante or sample rate convert to formats, that's a multiverter. And they've added little third rack boxes. So I have AES EBU, AVB, Dante. So now I can convert Dante 48K to Dante 96K and do all kinds of cool things. And the target pricing on those, I think, is right around $500 to $700 map. So I expect those will do well, especially in the integration market. RME has introduced a couple of new audio interfaces that are going to sit in the UCX UC range. That's about all I can say about those. So there's some things coming.
There was a lot of people have been asking about it, or it's been coming up in conversations. The B4000 Plus. A lot of people don't really know what it does or how to operate it, but they want to know more about it. Can you just go into like a little quick overview of what that is and how it can be used?
Yeah, and maybe somebody hosting this can go to Ferrofish and maybe pop up a photo while I talk about it. But the B4000 is it's manufactured by Ferrofish. It is a organ B3 Hammond organ sound module. It's about yay big, and what's really cool about it, the sounds obviously, but it has the drawbars, so it's more tactile, like using a Hammond organ. It's portable. It has MIDI I/O in it for an upper manual and a lower manual, because a Hammond organ is usually 2. And we recently, Roger Smith from Tower Power is an endorsee of this, because sometimes he does gigs, doesn't want to, and he owns a real Hammond. So it's convenient because he can bring a keyboard controller and the B4000. Oh, Zach, thank you.
I actually have one. There you go. Thank you, Frank.
So there's actually a video, presumably a link to that video is on this page that we're on, with Roger Smith playing the B4000. It's pretty cool. Easy to use, portable, affordable. And Roger, who's probably one of the most respected B3 players, thinks it's an amazing tool for anybody in that world to want to have, because, dragging around a B3 isn't always that easy. So
with everyone staying at home now, working on music production and everything like that, products like this are definitely growing in popularity and stuff like that. So I feel like this is something that we should be showing around a bit more, so the awareness of it is out there.
Yeah, it's funny because I won't name names, but some of the major retailers, it's not a product we spend so much time talking about Babyface and all this kind of stuff. So sometimes products like that get lost. But we were looking at the back orders and special orders on that piece, and I was blown away how many people are just ordering it. So I'm guilty not talking about it enough either. So I'm glad you brought it up.
Heck yeah. That's why I have it in my possession, because I've actually been using it, and it's a pretty impressive unit. Everything that it can do in this little box.
Yeah.
Something you can't just emulate easily through plugins and whatnot.
Yep, I agree.
Derek, take a second to mention Rising Stars, would you?
Thank you. Maybe while I'm talking about it, you could flash the Synthax page, because I think the homepage has information on it. So we started doing live streams called the Synthax Extravaganza to just, obviously being stuck at home and not traveling and doing trade shows, we're trying to do more things for our customers. And this Rising Stars event is one such example of that. So this is a contest where users can submit videos, whether you're a vocalist or a guitar player. And I think for a guitar player that it's expanded. It's not just electric guitar. It could be, I think, ukulele, any stringed instrument. So we try to be inclusive, bass guitar, whatever. And Janine, who's an award-winning vocalist, and Michael Badio are the judges. And their video here will talk a little bit about it, and those who want to check it out. And I think the winner gets some pretty cool prizes. We also, every Wednesday at 5 p.m. Eastern, do a live stream at the RME USA YouTube channel of tech support. So Jeff Peterson and I get on a live stream, and customers can ask questions, and we can answer those questions live. And if it's a Totalmix question, we can screen share. We answer questions about installing drivers, dealing with security issues. So we're trying to make ourselves more available to the public. And certainly if you're a dealer watching this, you're welcome to join any of these events that we do, because we think it's important to just keep people informed about these tools and what they can be doing and overcome different challenges and out of the box solutions. And more people are getting creative at home on doing different things, so pushing the envelope of the gear. And so we try to address all of that.
Very cool. So hopefully within like the next few weeks, within the next month, I think most of the people on this stream right now are dealers of Synthax and RME. We're hoping to come by and swing to you guys and have a virtual call with you so we can sit down and talk about the products and kind of just go over a bunch of things of how we're doing. You know, normally around this time is when we're visiting the territory, saying hi to people in person. It's not really something we can do in the climate of the world right now. So hopefully these virtual calls will help that. It'd be nice to see everyone.
Yeah,
face
and
to
if the
face.
audience watching right now is mainly RME dealers or dealers who sell equipment who might be interested in RME and what we're all about, one of the things that we do is we'll partner with you. If you want to do a live stream to your customers on improving your audio for Zooming and podcasting, we can do that. And we can show them, you know, we don't have to be overly salesy about it. We can just show people, here's an effective way to do, you know, this. Many of you probably are dealing with music teachers, and how are music teachers teaching from home? We have solutions for that. And you know, if you want to stream and create your own web radio station program, oh yeah, I'll talk about this in a second. Let me just finish my thought. So, you know, if you want to stream your band or your own music from home and have it sound like Sirius XM, we have a box that can do that. You just connect it to the internet, because that's what people want. They want their art form to sound as if it's right here. I want it to sound as if I'm putting headphones on and hearing my DAW, but I'm on the web. And listening to things over Zoom and listening to things over Facebook Live and YouTube Live do have limitations. Now, what you're seeing right now is something called a Koia Guest, and there's an example here about, you know, what audio sounds like on a Zoom call versus audio using a Koia Guest. And without getting too technical, basically all this is opening up a browser on your cell phone or on a web browser and connecting to another person who's at home, and you now have a two-way call. You're still using Zoom. So in Zoom, of course, you can choose not to connect internet audio, but just connect video, and then use a Koia Guest as the audio transmission mechanism. And the audio now sounds like I ran a microphone cable from my house to your house. So if I'm teaching you voice or clarinet or acoustic guitar or whatever it is, I can hear it. Obviously, a good microphone goes a long way and all those kinds of things, but the audio codec, as it's referred to, makes a big difference as to the compression and all the processing that goes on. And we have solutions that overcome that are remarkably affordable. So we have all. So if you are a dealer and you're interested, you know, contact your representative here from Peter E. Schmidt, and they can kind of get in more details. So, but we want to partner with you. We want to help you. We want to, you know, be a good service to your clients and customers.
Absolutely. I think that's another thing as well, is we want to do more of these types of events with you. We want to go over more of the products. Today we focused on mainly retail centric, you know, Babyface, ADI2 DAC, but RME and Synthax has such a wide variety of products that we can go into and easily spend an hour talking on. So that's something that we want to hopefully plan within the next few months or so, get you in here again and
Sure.
go from there. Now, if anyone else has any questions for us or anything else they'd like to know from either Derek or myself, your last chance, pop it in the Q&A answer here. No? Well, then if not, I think we'll wrap it up and hand it off back over to Tony. Sound good with you, Derek?
Yep. Thanks for your time.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.
Well, in that case, I guess I'll wrap this up for us. So I want to thank you all for joining us today. I want to thank Derek and Zach for walking us through a great conversation on RME products. As Zach mentioned, we are going to be having another in the future that is going to feature some other RME products that will feature Dante. And so we will have Audinate join us for that stream. We want to also tell you about our next S-TEC Live event. March 11th at 11 a.m., we are going to be having our newest manufacturer, EAW. We are so excited to bring them on, and it is such an incredible brand, and we want you to learn all about it. So make sure to click on the link in the comments that Frank is going to post, and you can register for our next S-TEC Live. So thank you all for joining us. If you want to learn more about all of the products that we represent, make sure to follow our social media. You can find that on our website, or you can just search Peter E. Schmidt Company. So once again, thank you all for joining us. I know for sure I have learned a lot. And just as I say in our S-TEC TV videos, thanks for watching. Hope you learned something.